know me, I'm Pravin Shekar. I'm one of the people behind the Thai Chennai Marketing Special Interest Group. We have been having events. We were very, very regular till COVID, and now post-COVID for the last 1 year, we've been having the monthly meetups. We also have started the monthly virtual meetups on the book front, and there are a lot of surveys and webinars that we are doing. Now, I need to thank Suvish here because 2.5 weeks ago, I was having breakfast with another time member, Narayanan, and Narayanan told me that Suvish is in town. So immediately during the breakfast, we texted Suvish and he immediately said yes. And today was the only day he was available. So thank you, Suvish, for immediately saying yes and coming over for Thai Chennai. Now, let me tell you what this event is all about. And for those sitting slightly away, please come closer because I'm only the moderator. I am here as much to learn from Suvish. Disclaimer, he is going to talk about from his experience and his perspective. And all of us here as entrepreneurs and marketers would need to learn and adapt for our business. And two, the more specific questions you ask Suvish, he will be able to provide specific responses based on his experience. Right? So I'm going to start off with a few questions. If any of you have questions already written down, you can mail it across to type or raise your hand and the microphone will find you. So we have 30 to 40 minutes of this Q&A, followed by any other one-on-one interactions based on how much time Suvish has. He is, of course, on a work holiday and he is going to fly back. So, Suvish, a personal question to start with. You started your career as a marketing analyst and now head marketing for Zoho across Europe. Why marketing? What is the draw for you?
Okay. First of all, thank you. That was the longest introduction I've ever had. You're very kind. Thanks, Pravin, for the opportunity. So I started my career as a developer right after my engineering, and then my regular engineering vision, whatever, right? So after a couple of years, do MBA, do business, go that path. That was my idea as well. So why marketing? Because the company that I was in, it was a Japanese firm. They've been around for, like usual with Japanese companies, they are there for a long period. So they were been around since '69 or something. They were the first ones in Japan to bring IBM technology to Japan. The person who I was working with, he used to tell us about the software requirements and the way it should look, the way you should have that user experience thing and all. And he was a marketer.
Okay.
And we were, I think, 6 or 7 developers who were developing the business intelligence software back then on the cloud. That was, to me, a sort of triggering point because he knew well beyond development. He could understand what was the client requirement, what was the business need, what are the real requirements in the market, which we as a developer didn't have the visibility. And then I was in a city called Tumkur, which is about 1.5 hours from Bangalore. That's where they opened their office. And me and another friend, we were just looking around for cloud companies in India. This is back in 2009, 10, yeah. And we came across Zoho. And we were shocked back then because we didn't know that there was a cloud company with so many products in India and that was based in Chennai. So both of us applied for development role. I got a call. I came to Chennai. That was the first time I came to Chennai. And that's how my career at marketing started. Yeah.
Now, setting the stage for Europe, most of what we read in the CNN and other places give us the American narrative.
Yeah.
The question to you is, how is India perceived in Europe? In general and also from a tech perspective.
See, this is, I've been in this role now for about 7 years. So when I was, so we started this whole approach in Zoho to be closer to our customers, be closer to the market. Before this, I would say we were very centered in India, Chennai, and we had an office in Japan, in US, and in China. That's about it. We never had local offices in multiple countries that we have today. So we were the first ones to, let's explore these regions, right? So because we were getting a lot of products, a lot of customers, product requirements, customers and partners in these regions, but we never had presence. So that's how we started this. And first 4-5 years, I was regularly traveling along with me. We have a couple of other colleagues. One of the senior members in Zoho, he moved. I was supposed to move back then, but then COVID, right? So, and then I moved about 3 years ago, close to 3 years ago, to Germany. Not the best country to choose. But then you realize that what is the perception that we have among Europeans, right? At least at a day-to-day life per se, there are good things, there are bad things, right? So of course, so good thing is they all know that we are hard workers. I think that's one general perception they have. They also know that there's a lot of IT coming out of India. And this, I'm not talking about your general Twitter public. I'm talking about regular people. Like for example, I have a daughter who's now going to a German school. It's a German public school. It's not private. So there, when you talk to other parents, you then get the real picture because they are not from IT, and then you get the real picture. So these are, I think, some good things that they think about. Of course, there is soft power about food and all that stuff, right? So that's always there. A not so good part is about our quality, right? So the quality is definitely a concern that across Europe you would see, right? India is not synonymous to quality yet. China was like that. China is it's changing that perception very, very rapidly, right? So and they are investing heavy on marketing. So I don't know, are there any football fans here? Yeah. So there was this Euro Cup recently, and Germany hosted it. If you look at, I was surprised when I saw that every main sponsor of Euro Cup 2024 was a Chinese company, right? It was BYD, it was Alipay, it was Tencent, there's Temu. So these are the companies, right? So they are heavily sort of, so earlier it was all about bringing products to Europe, right? And then if you have visited Europe, you would have seen this clothing brand called Primark, right? So Primark is for cheap quality clothes. I don't know if it's quality, but definitely cheap, right? So so this is how they have been earlier. If you look at Chinese, every European or every American city has a Chinatown, right? That was their soft power that they had. But then slowly they started with clothing and this easier to sell sort of products. Now they are into a very, very advanced sort of stage, right? Where they are selling electric cars. Now BYD is, Elon Musk used to laugh at them, right? But then you still don't produce one of those quality design cars, but then they are everywhere. So India has that perception about the quality, right? Which has to overcome if you have to get that adoption in a superior market like Europe. And I say superior because it's not very price conscious, but at the same time, they all, like all of us, love discounts, right? So our advantage, our advantage is that we can produce the same quality with affordable rates, then it's a very winning combination, right? Because I think there is that trust factor which is there with Indian companies, and I think that's I never knew Royal Enfield is quite popular.
Okay.
So I was so surprised to see one of the forums recently, about a few months ago, Royal Enfield, they did some advertisement about some product of theirs, and you would see the comments. And all those comments were very positive comments, quality products and things like that, right? You will not see, it's not a very common thing. It's not very common when you have a company from outside of Europe getting that kind of recognition and appreciation from locals. That was very, very nice.
Now, in continuing the same vein, Suvish, and there are a lot of entrepreneurs and business professionals here. What is the perception, let's say, if they want to pitch to German companies or European companies in general? Has that changed? You've worked there for over 6-7 years. I lived and worked there for 3 years when this was the pre-internet days. And therefore, there was racism, there was a whole lot of other issues that you're talking about. But my question to you is more, how are the businesses looking at Indian companies as a partner or as a potential vendor?
Yeah, I think I would say a lot has changed in the last 8-10 years. I think India's, and I might be looking at this from a microscopic view, so maybe the broader view is different, but at least from what I see is the perception has slowly tilted towards more positive in the last 8-10 years, I would say. And that is sort of helping the companies to have better perception, right? So I was telling to him on our conversation on somebody, I think NASSCOM, for example, right? So NASSCOM, which is our IT governing council, right? They also have been helping Indian companies to have some sort of presence in Europe and in other regions as well. So a few months ago, they had organized sort of a tour of this German cities with some of the Indian companies. I think 14, 15 of the Indian, or maybe it was, I think, close to 30 companies. They visited the main cities in Germany, and it was also organized by the city's embassy of Indian embassies, right? So I participated. So they called me for one of these panel discussions. Some Indian companies who were there already, right? So you could see there's some help coming from government as well to expand, and there is big opportunity, right? So they if at the time, like, you can get the product to the user, whether it is a software product, whether it is a manufactured end product, it doesn't really matter where it comes from. And I think there are now a lot of these opportunities that have opened up. Europe as a whole is a digital laggard. It's not one of those early adopters of digital technology. I mean, I would keep UK as an outlier there. UK is closer to, say, US in terms of digital adoption, or I would say Asia. US is still, you still use cash in US, right? So, but Europe. So we did a digital health study last year just to see how it is, right? So there you see a lot of, Germany, I think it's the only country where you still use fax machines.
Wow.
Yeah. So when I moved 2 years ago, I opened a bank account there, right? And then I came to India for something, and then I went back. I forgot my password. I did forgot password on the banking portal, and this is one of the biggest banks in the world. Huh? They said you will receive your post in 3 days. So I had to wait for 3 days to get the post with my password, right? So this is the health of digital adoption in Germany and in many other European countries as well. So when it comes to Europe, you shouldn't be looking at it as one country or one region, right? It is, yes, you can use euros in 28, 29 countries in all the Schengen countries, but or EUs, but it's a lot more than that, right? And that is something which is very important for us to study before we sort of embark on the journey, whatever that journey is, whether it is business, whether it is marketing, sales, or whatever it is.
Okay. Any questions at this point, or shall I move to my next? There are incentives for those who ask questions, just in case.
Chinese. How is Indian government actually helping? Is the local embassies or the ministries from here helping Indian companies, entrepreneurs to go change the perception or at least help in speeding up than what the Chinese are doing?
I'm not sure what Chinese are doing. But and also I didn't know what Indian government is doing until I saw this embassy initiative. I thought it was a very nice initiative because sometimes things are very opaque. You don't have that transparency in terms of how to do the business and who should you connect, what should be your first steps. So I think there, when I chatted with these guys, attended a couple of their events, I realized that okay, these guys are really helping businesses to. Because see, it is these 40-50 companies, they were sponsored this whole visit, right? And in Germany, we had companies like Motherson, Sumi. I don't know if you guys know about this. It's a big company. Yeah, you had LG from Coimbatore, right? So these were some of the companies that were there, and the government was, I think, helping. And perception-wise, I would say, I think there's all this reach out that has happened in the last 8-10 years outside of India. I think that's also helping.
You mostly before German. Was saying for German. What's the scope for
There is, yes, German technology is of superior quality, but then if the other company is providing you a better alternative at better price, because the economy is tight, right? So the whole Europe is going through a stagflation, what they say, and also the economy is more or less like it's not growing. Last 3-4 quarters, German economy, for example, is the biggest economy in European Union, right? It was dipping. I think last 2 quarters it was 0.2, 0.3% or something like that. It's not enough for the expenses they have to bear, right? So then that means that the budget that each of these companies have to expand, it's limited. So you can't continue to use German technology because building things in Germany is expensive, and that is why China is so far ahead, because China could develop the technology at a much cheaper rate, and then these companies are ready to buy, right? So now what has happened, especially with the start of Ukraine war, is countries like Germany was almost entirely dependent on energy from Russia. So the manufacturing sector of Germany was completely, it came to stand still because they then decided not to use the energy, right? Now what that meant was the regular energy prices went up crazy, like almost 6 times. So think of the cost that the industries had to bear. Now the neighboring country, France, they were smart enough because they always had nuclear, right? Almost 60-70% of French energy requirements are coming from nuclear. Germany had 3 best nuclear plants in the world. They shut it down because they wanted to go green, right? So there are a lot of structural issues there, right? And if you are coming there with a solution, they have no other choice but to adopt that. And that's what China is doing. China is coming there with a solution. China is flooding the market with solar panels, with energy batteries, with energy electric cars, with cheaper clothes, right? Because it's a requirement. So they are bringing they can manufacture in China at a much cheaper rate, sell in Europe, and that's where opportunity for companies like LG would stand, right? I think from India, one advantage that Indian companies would have is, like for example, language, soft skills, right? So that's why I would say Indians are more successful in US than Chinese, right? But it's a tough competition. It's not easy. It's not easy at all because the way to do business is very, very different there in Europe versus say in the US.
So you guys have more of an IT scope there.
Since I'm in IT, I would say yes. But there could be scope for manufacturing as well.
Thanks, I think so. Thanks for clearing and showing both sides of the coin. Yes, you are going to know about IT, and yet you feel Europe is a digital laggard there. So we run a management consulting and technology consulting firm, and Europe was one of the markets that we were actually eyeing to grow our services in. Now, good interesting point that you brought out is Europe is a quality conscious market that you say. Now, from a pitch perspective, right, being into Germany and Europe, what do you feel is something that excites them on thing? Right? Generally, there are different forms like emails and all. Those are all modes of reaching out to them, right? That's one side. But when you read a marketing material, what is something that excites as Europeans? Okay, let me talk to them. Like, what is that theme? Is it like, for example, when we started approaching US or other Asian markets, it was like cutting edge technology, right? We were talking about AI, and like, okay, let's talk to them, right? So that's something that was there in other markets. Is Europe following similar trend, or is that something else that we have to do from technology concept?
See, I used to say this to my team, to Americans you can sell the future. You can't sell the future to Europeans. You have to sell the present. Right? Are you solving my problem, today's problem? Right? You of course. The other thing what Europeans need to have, and I'm saying it's must have in our any pitch, anything that you do is plan. Europeans love to plan, right? They are very instruction-led public, right? So you need to have a plan on certain. Let's say if you're talking about consultation or process, right? You need to have to give them the visibility on what should be your implementation plan, right? So it's a very risk-averse crowd. Americans love to take risk. This is totally opposite, right? But if you get a customer there, your lifetime of the customer is much higher than American lifetime because they will stay with you, right? They don't want, because they are risk averse, they don't want to switch. So you see the positive side of that, right? Yes, the negative side is it's difficult to get them, but once you get them, they'll stay with you for long. And to get them, you need to have a proper plan. We cannot go there with our jugaad mindset.
I believe it's because that's not based on
Lovely. But that leads me to a question, but before that, a quick poll here. How many of you are in the small, medium, large? The small is less than 20, 30 people, $100,000 or $50,000 in turnover. How many in the medium, which is at least 50 people, and how many in the large, which is how many in the small company state here? Lovely. So a question on their behalf. Now, if they need to expand into Europe, what should their pitching style be? Because, as you said, the market is risk averse. Would they be open to working with Indian startups or a smaller company? What's your thought process having been there?
See, there are most of the countries in Europe, if you look at, the statistics are there on the public domain. And they do quite a good job in putting the statistics up there, right? 97 to 98% of companies in most of these countries are SMEs. If I have to take an example of how they categorize, right? So it's 1 to 9 employees. Most of them are more or less similar. You can find some variations here and there. Then you have 10 to 49, 50 to 249, and then 240 to 250 and above. So employee-wise, that's how they do the categorization. And many of these companies would fall under 1 to 9 bracket. There are reasons to that as well. You would find one owner having multiple smaller companies for tax purposes, right? You would see a lot of these smaller companies part of one owner per se, right? So working with a small company is it's not an issue as long as you are able to serve the quality process, all of that's needed to serve the requirements. So I think that's what I researched.
How open would they be to talk to an Indian small startup?
It's tough. It's tough. It's tough for Zoho.
Okay.
So,
As a very small company.
yeah. So, it's so I tell this to our internal teams, right? So we are in India. I think people kind of know Zoho now. I still remember during my early days, I used to be part of this Chennai trekking club.
Right.
I used to go for these treks and all, and we used to go to different places. So they would ask, right, which company? And so I would say Zoho. This is 2010. People will be like, Pogo, Zoho, what, right? So we are in that situation over there.
Okay.
Right? So we have come a long way here. We have to cover a long way there, right? When we talk about them, about us or about us at certain events or whatever, then they would first, oh yeah, this is such a big company, 50 plus products, you've been with since 96 and all of that. And then you would see customers who are talking about you. So that plays a pivotal role in gaining that trust, right? So even if you are a small business, you are solving certain problem and you are able to demonstrate how you're solving the problem in efficient, affordable manner. I think it's not an impossible task. It is a difficult task. So you should be in for a long time.
But continuing there, when you said brand, how do we build a brand in a country where we have no office, no local standard per se?
Yeah.
How does a company here, a small to medium-sized enterprise, primarily to hedge the bets, and I'm putting myself in their shoes, Suvish, that US, as you said, I could be hired, I could be fired anytime, I need to have some stability, I need to hedge my bets, and therefore I have to look at Europe. But I am a small company, and therefore, what thoughts should I have, what actions should I take from a brand building perspective towards my specific target group, not the world at large, but for example, he's in the pet recycling part of it, so he may have a certain specific type of companies. He's into management consulting, technical consulting, so small. So what should companies like us do from a brand building perspective?
Yeah. So brand building, it's a factor of trust. And in a country, in Western European market, so if you're split, right? So Western Europe market would be like, say, Nordics, Benelux. Nordics, when I say Nordics, Norway, Denmark, Sweden, Finland, and the Benelux is Belgium, Netherlands, Luxembourg. And then you have France, Germany, Spain, Italy, right? So this the western side part of the European continent. They are quality conscious, they are brand conscious, risk averse. Most of them. I'm not trying to bucket them into one, but then this is my understanding, right? And then you go to Eastern Europe market like Poland and the regions, like Central and the Eastern before Russia. These markets are ready to experiment, right? They are like markets who would not care much about where you're from or which product, what is your product, what is your product, of course they care. But then where you're from is not the biggest of the challenge, right? And that could be your starting point. So it need not be the Western Europe market always. It could be that side of the market where you could find the adoption and you slowly enter into this. I'm not sure how many of you know, we call Poland, Poland in Europe doesn't have a very good reputation. Because it is cheap labor or quality and blah blah blah, right? But Poland is one of the most stable economies in Europe. So 2008 GFC, global financial crisis, right? Poland was least impacted, and it's a flourishing economy, right? Like that, you have some bright spots in eastern side of Europe where you would get affordable labor. So labor is one of the biggest challenges in Europe. It is one of the biggest challenges in Europe. I don't know, I have not faced corruption. I don't know. But at least labor, because when we go out to hire, it's more employee market than employer market. Right? So in India, we are an employer market. As in we put out, yes, of course, we get a lot of resumes and all. But in Europe, you might, or at least Western Europe, you might end up putting up a job vacancy, and then for months you're not getting a single resume, right? So this is another thing which one should factor in as you expand it, because you need to have local folks, and local folks are not easy to come by. They won't join if you are not a known employee. So it's chicken and egg problem, right? How do you build a brand? The brand building is a very long-term game. You need to have local customers. I was telling someone, look for partners. Look for partners who are already doing business in one of these European countries. Think of a easy country to enter. When I say easy country, where getting in the regulation part, like for example, Germany is extremely bureaucratic, right? But then Netherlands could be a lot more welcoming. Spain could be a lot more welcoming. In fact, I was at a few months ago. I was in Barcelona and I went to a barber shop, and this barber, he was from Bangladesh. I asked him, so he's obviously looks same, so then we started talking, right? And I speak Hindi quite well, so we started talking, and then I asked him, so how come Spain, right? Because you would see many of them in UK or in one of those English-speaking countries, right? So he said, he was saying this, and then I did my own research. I found out. So his point was, I have lived in Germany, I have lived in UK, I have lived in one more country, he said. Spain was easiest for me to set up the business.
Wow.
Right? So I didn't know that. And then say the Netherlands is quite easy, right? So Netherlands also has some tax.
Also because of non-availability of people.
No, it's just I think the way government puts their policies, right? So easy to do business as in to register and then to get the tax and all.
How easy is it for people like you or you to come set up a shop? Say for instance, pre-requires a company. We have created an online application. So the moment you start talking to them, they will verify you online or check your background and all that. You have created enough motion there. And once you go there into the country, you will need a local registration. For India, we have a big problem. I don't want to get out of Tamil Nadu because I need another GST registration. I need to raise the officials there to get my labor employer or transport registration and all that stuff. So how easy is it for people like them? There, India also has a single window system. You know the Assistant Commissioner of Labour's drivers, that is one single window. You pay him, he takes care of everything. So how is it in Europe? Is it easy for registration, setting up offices and starting to do business?
I don't have much experience in that, so I wouldn't be able to comment on how easy it is. But in Zoho now we have set up 5 or 6 entities in the last 7 years across Europe. Some of them are very easy, right? For example, Netherlands is quite easy. But then they all have, good thing is, it's all laid out. There are no uncertainties there, right? So it's all laid out, and that comes back to my point on the planning part, right? So people like to have expected outcomes. It's so if you have like for example, if you go there, you need to have 5 steps to get your resident permit. Now, those 5 steps are clear. There is no more going behind the window, talking to someone. Those kind of things don't exist. Yes, if you know somebody, it might be faster, right? So because that's just human, right? You know somebody and then things get faster, right? But then and then guiding you better, or it could be that I know somebody knows someone, so then you could get a better, easier appointment, right? But it's fairly straightforward. It can take time, but the process is laid out.
I'll take a shot at the answer here because my previous ventures have set up offices in Germany, in Sweden, and in the US. US has been the most simplest and straightforward. Delaware Corporation gets it done. Be it Germany or Sweden, it will take time. It will be expensive because you will need a local lawyer, you will need an auditor. In certain cases, you will also need a local representative to be there, right? So these are all clauses that will take time, that will also cost money. So if you are a small to medium-sized enterprise, you will have to ask, do I really need an office there? I've also explored setting it up in Singapore. It's again an ROI perspective. But I believe for those who are looking at Estonia, which is a tiny country out there, is very, very open for Indians to come and set up an office in their country, incorporated thing, which is, in my opinion, a kind of an easier entry into the European Union per se. But it is going to be laborious, it's going to be time consuming. You may have to give details of your past girlfriends, but the documentation and due diligence check is going to be quite crazy. We'll have to be ready for it.
All legal.
All legal.
I have to think.
No. It's I've never had a need or even a hint of a request for anything related to that. So
you will land in trouble actually.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you spoke about trust, right? So building trust is a process. It's not just you go and talk to somebody, and so as part of that, being medium or small enterprises, they may also need some sort of a certification, ISO 27001 or GDPR compliance, and it's going to cost money. So what's your view on that?
View on certification?
Yeah. So what are the groundworks that needs to be in place before somebody ventures into Europe as a market?
So see, I would say these are minimum requirements, right? So if you are into data, then you need to have some of these compliances certifications sorted out. Like for us, for example, we were one of the first companies in the world to have one of those ISO certifications for privacy. And this has added a lot of thrust to our go-to-market efforts, because Zoho as a company, we are extremely focused on privacy. Sometimes it's more than what is required, right? And with that goes to GDPR and all. For us, obviously, when we set up our office, we were large enough. So we had our own data centers in Europe. So these are all factors that people look at. Okay, my data is going to be in EU, right? So and then you have all the compliance certifications which are always there on our website. So these factors are very important, and one can't ignore that if you want to really explore Europe. You had a question.
Yes.
Thank you. You mentioned about Poland, Spain, and all that. So, how easy is to communicate with the non-English speaking countries? Can we talk in English, or do we need an interpreter? How easy is to communicate?
You need somebody local. You need somebody local. Poland as well. They don't speak English. Again, some cities in each of these countries are good with international language in English, right? So, for example, in Germany, Berlin, you go to Frankfurt, you will hear people speak English, and then suddenly you get a perception that, oh yeah, English is fine in Germany, right? You go 50 kilometers away from Berlin, you hit the reality, right? Same thing goes for any European countries. But at the same time, you have some countries there where English is quite common. For example, Benelux, Netherlands, Nordics, English is quite common, where you can comfortably enter, have a GTM in English. But other regions, English is not common.
At least on the written communication, will they be okay, or they expect?
They all know English, right? Because English is part of school curriculum. But they may not be. So that's where your first, so this is something which I tell to our teams also, right? So because if you are a new entrant, you need to make the other person feel very comfortable, right? So if you are having your product, you want to sell your product to the customer there. Now they should have the same experience that they would have with a local competitor, right? So if that means that your salesperson, your pre-sales person, your implementation person, all of them should have some local knowledge, which is why the first step could also be to look for a partner, okay, where you could enter.
Sure. Thank you.
My analogy there is, when we meet as strangers, one of the questions that comes is, even though we don't know each other, there is some connection that is in common that says, okay, let's connect. Yes.
See, in 2010-12 times, there used to be an exchange program in Netherlands. So, the retired people there, they'll have a database of retired people, so we can apply. So the government will send them. It's part of a government program. So they will come here. So only thing is we have to take care of their hospitality. So he'll be an expert in different fields. So from various fields, they had a huge database. So we can select, they'll come, we have to provide hospitality, and they'll guide us. And once they go back, so they will help us source or connect with the similar, entrepreneurs or businesses there. And from here, we have to spend only on our tickets. The rest is taken care by the government. The stay and the local transport, everything used to be sponsored. So this was taught, I think, 12. I mean, we invited 2 experts from there, from Netherlands. In fact, it was really good. They in fact set up, I think, over a 15-day period, 10, 12 meetings they set up. At that point of time, the challenge we faced was the nationalism. See, we were looking for offshoring. So your cost is very high. Why don't you outsource your thing? But they said no. So if I outsource a job to you, then a local will lose his job. So we will not. So that was very high at that point of time. So we were at that point of time into it. In fact, then they try to market their products. But we were not that. For example, AR is one of the things that was coming up at that point of time here. It was not. So augmented reality.
Okay. So AR is technology.
Yes, technology at that point. So they said they said, why don't you take this technology and try it there? So are there any similar, because as you rightly said, we need a local partner. And we did not have deep pockets to go back again and again and try it. We did invite 2 experts, but we could not get into business because of this offshoring thing at that point of time. Okay, now we have also transformed it to products. So we do have a couple of platforms which we are trying to. So are there any similar programs? And even Germany at that point of time, Netherlands closed this program at that point of time, and Germany opened up. And similarly, are there any such programs to get some local partners or anything like this in other countries?
I'm not fully aware of it, sir, so I'm not sure, but I know that all these European countries, I would bucket them in one category, right? So they all have demographics issue, right? So it's an aging population, especially the Western European markets, right? So they are looking for skilled laborers, right? So and they are having a lot of programs to bring entrepreneurs, bring skilled people to their country. In fact, there are cities in France and Italy where these are dying cities basically, right? So they are paying people to come and build a family there, right? So the situation is not that promising for some of these countries. So yes, there are. I think maybe if you explore, I don't know. Maybe you.
Most of that has stopped right now. I've been an entrepreneur since 1999. I've been a recipient of some of those schemes that you're talking about, including the Indian government had a scheme called the Export Development Program, where even about 20% of my business development costs I can legally claim from the government as a reimbursement, and they used to give it. But that was the STPI days, and subsequently it has there's enough export and forex in India that those programs have come down. And with global travel at this level, that's my personal opinion, even the local countries, but except what he mentioned earlier about smaller countries like Estonia, Poland may still have some of these programs because they want outside people to come in. It's for you to explore. But I'm bringing it back into marketing into Europe. Without giving any specifics, what are the common objections that you get from prospects in pitches, in proposals? What do they look at? Because you are an Indian company, you are an Indian brand out there. In general, what are those? Because I believe that we will also be facing similar objections, if not the same.
So one thing that we constantly get is local success stories. And sometimes they are very particular about it, right? So we may have really good stories to tell, but then we may not have equally good stories from, let's say, Italy, right? So that's one challenge that we face on a regular basis. Second is the perception challenge. Perception challenge that we can support the scale and complexity, right? So when we talk about, of course, I think so initial years, Zoho has been now maybe selling in Europe for 18 to 20 years. and our first office came only in 2017, right? But before that, it was all led by partners. And for us, we have been and we are very good in digital space. And this is before digital marketing became a household name, right, today. So whenever there is that intent-based search, we would show up. This I'm talking about early 2000s. We always had this model, right? Because we never had a salesperson on ground for such a long time, right? So this way we could expand the market by capturing the low-hanging fruit, right? So you always have in your market early adopters, and that section of the crowd is the one who are ready to try a new brand. It's always there, right? So that could give you some feelers of the market. You could wet your feet and then see how cold the water is, right? So that's something which helped us, I would say. And we are also in the business where the initial investment is not as high as, say, for example, your business, right? So which is capital intensive. So that gave us lot of room to experiment. And this helped us to, then build a base, and you could one word of mouth could get some brownie points as well. But partners, I think they played a critical role in our expansion. When we were not on the ground, they were our flag bearers, and they still are. Because then you don't want to have so many boots on the ground, right? Then they become our extended team.
Any questions from
What is
yes? Go ahead.
What is partners' expectation?
Okay, the question is, what are the expectations, minimum expectations of partners?
Yeah. So we were different. And I would say we were different because we are a no strings attached sort of organization. You want to do business. We are quite easy that way. And I think it's been Sridhar his
Recording stopped.
his, I think, DNA, right? So in the company from the beginning. So he said this at the beginning, and he still follow this as a company even after 26 years. A customer should be able to come try the product and should be able to exit very, very easily, right? You go to our website today, you sign up on the product. We don't ask for credit cards. You want to leave the product, leave Zoho, you want to try some other product, we don't ask for penalties. Now it's common. But back then when we started, it was not common. Right? And that's the same thing with the partners as well. When you have some of the other players in the industry, they would strong arm the partners, they would put 20-page clauses, contracts, and things like that. We were quite easy. I think we were also easy because we were also learning. But then that DNA still continues, right? So then partners also enjoyed working with us. So some of these partners are 15, 16 years old with us, right? And it's not like they have not moved out of Zoho because they don't have other offers. Some of them tell us they keep getting calls from other vendors, other competition, can they sell the product and all, right? So it's not that we are the best company out there, but then we just make things a little easier, I think. So that is, I think, needed. That if you are trying to bring a partner for your product or for your company, try to make things a little easier for them to learn the culture of your organization, what your really goals are, your products, so you have enough materials for them to implement the product, to learn and things like that. These are things that are important because you are from ERP, right? So ERP is not it's not an uncommon thing, right? It's you have biggest players from Europe, ERP players, right? ERP, MRPs, it's everywhere in Europe, right? So you need to really find that differentiation point. That why should somebody partner with you in Europe, right? And how will they get money? And it's a very pragmatic approach that needs to be taken here, right? So because companies, people are very straightforward there, they would sit with you for dinner if there is something in for them, right? So that needs to be very clearly laid out that you become a partner, this, right? This is how you're going to get better commissions or better revenues, and this is how you could scale, right? From Zoho's perspective, one advantage that we had was we always were a multi-product company, right? So for us, it was you are a partner today for, I don't know, let's say CRM, but then your revenue doesn't just stop with CRM. You have the opportunity to expand to 49 other products. So that was our USP. So there could be something similar for you as well.
Hi, we are into systems integration and from-based automation.
Okay.
We work with manufacturing industries like tire, automotive, auto components, and German being the industry for creator, how do you think that the market is there for somebody like us, system integrators? Again, Siemens is leading the way over there, and all Europe markets are mostly Siemens driven, unlike in US, it's Allen Bradley or Rockwell. How would you see a market for a player like us over there?
I don't have enough knowledge about your market. So you might have to think about one easy way to, I don't know if it's easy way, but then one way you can consider is attend some events. You will have industry events, right? So manufacturing has several industry events. Actually, there's one coming up in Hanover, Hanover Messe. Right? Yeah. So that's one event, right? So there are other events as well. In Germany, there is a like here you have this MSME council. You have there called BBMW. So BBMW is a group of Mittelstand association. Mittelstand is the mid-sized business in Germany. These are basically 50 employees to 249 employee companies in Germany. And they make up to $50 to $200 million revenue. This is the nervous system of German economy. This is what built Germany, right? And you will be surprised the productivity of each of these companies. Like here, what we usually would do with 1,000 people, they would do there with 50 people. And this Mittelstand base has this association called BBMW. And BBMW does a lot of events, and then they have various other groups, right? It's an extremely difficult organization to penetrate because it's not centrally governed. Every state, every district has its council. So that could be another starting point. So events and this, you could make some connections when you are at the event, and then it's basically to learn the market, right? Because these are complex markets, especially the manufacturing thing, because you have so many connecting points, you have so many suppliers, so many different associations that you should be part of. You have to make the start. Maybe event could be one of the starting points.
Absolutely. Yeah. So one more question, if I may. How about Serbia being a? I heard that Serbia cost of living is as affordable as some parts in India.
Yeah.
What would be your feedback to begin with in Serbia?
So we've had some interest from Serbia, and we did few things there last couple of years. So that's the Eastern Europe thing, right? So these are some of the markets that are lucrative because you have people and you have people with skills. Eastern Europe also has good computer skills. If you look at their mathematics for kids and all, their mathematics is quite advanced. and good mathematics means good programming, right? So Western Europe is not like that. So then you find good skilled people at an affordable cost, and also there is that demographics is better in Eastern Europe, right? So Serbia, said about Estonia, Poland, these are some good markets to study the Western Europe.
One last one, if I may. In US, whenever we pitch an idea to a customer, right? So if we invite them for dinner, if they come and join you for dinner, that means they like you, they want to take it forward. So likewise in Europe, what's the marketing strategy in terms of meeting customers?
I don't know if in US it's like that, because my experience in US is okay. Yeah, they're there for free dinner, right? But I would say in Europe, if they are coming for dinner, then they are serious. And again, I can't generalize it, but most often they would spend time only if there is. Time is very valuable there, right? And then there's a very strict work and life distinction there, right? So if somebody is spending time, then that means you've done something good.
Many thanks.
Just going back down my past, because I lived in Germany and before that I was put into an orientation program in India in terms of the do's and don'ts. You have to factor in this is the pre-internet days, so internet was just coming. And one of the first things the orientation expert said is, do not ask about personal questions.
Yeah.
So don't just, okay, are you married? Do you have children? Do you have a girlfriend? Don't ask any questions.
No. Even for interviews, right? This is because here you would ask everything during interviews, right? So those cultural aspect. Yes, that's a very good point. Everyone should read before venturing there, right? So various cultural aspects, because it can get messy.
Zoho must have a very tough time, right? Because it's always first person to drive my head on these kids.
Not really. I mean, not really. We touch wood, we didn't face those issues yet.
So when you say marketing, it's marketing to get your partners and your
Yes.
Yes. Different things.
Yes.
We have some channel for it or
Yeah, we have channel marketing and your regular marketing, right? So, and for channel, we need to have avenues where you could identify potential partners and things like that. And the regular customer base.
I'm not sure this is true. Zoho also has a commission structure where the partners are not paid more than 3 years for the product being sold. For example, say for instance, I'm a channel partner, I sold Zoho books to a company, and I get 20% of the whatever, but if next 3 years, then I have to go find another product to be sold again. Same like that.
You need to be a partner to do that.
Nice. Acha, one final question before I move into a couple of personal questions. Nothing, you hear the question, it's nothing like that. Now, this relates back to something you said at the beginning, Suvish. EU as a growth engine, but right now it's going through a stagflation.
Yes.
So, should we still consider Europe as one of the potential expansion areas for us to explore? What are your thoughts currently?
Yeah, no, it's a, we see, and now that we have global teams, right? So we have very good teams in the emerging markets, which is like the Middle East, Africa, Latin America, and we also have now teams in developed markets, right? So Europe, Americas and all, North Americas and all. And you would see that growth in both, or rather between these regions is like poles apart. Right. And it could be factor of there are multiple reasons for that, right? So one reason is certainly on how easy it is for the brands to accept you as a vendor. which is difficult in developed markets, right? Economy, yes, it's tough, but at the same time, the opportunities are there, right? So you mentioned about grants that the governments have. Now, European governments, at least the Western Europe that I know, every government has got digitalization grant. For example, in Germany and in Spain, there are, like in Spain, there is a program called Kit Digital. In Germany also there is something similar, where if you want to digitize your process, government will pay part of it. So there are these digital consultants, certified digital consultants in these countries, or authorized rather, not certified, authorized digital consultants. So if you go to them, they would suggest you the process, blah blah blah, and then you can use one of these consultants. Let's say if it's 20,000 euros, government would pay some 10,000 bucks or something, right? So those kind of opportunities are there. But I would say if you go to Europe, if you have patience, if you want to build your capital, then Europe might not give you quick bucks at this point in time. It's a long game. Yeah.
We are looking for expansion into Europe, right? Why not Europeans come to us for their expansion of their manufacturing units, as we are having good resource here, we are having labors cheaper here, and we also can accommodate to their technology, as they are ready to sell their technology here, but they are not ready to partner up with us to expand their manufacturing unit here. If we break a look for that, that would be a game changer for India also.
I haven't heard of it. East Germany actually people not China for when you get one of the
So I will answer to him first. See, they are. It's not like I think we need to also provide that assurance, right? China has shown it that they can do it, right? Because it's there are very less variables in China. Like we have a lot of variables here. We are a democratic country, so that has its own pros and cons, right? Especially for. So I think these are probably the reasons why they are still not looking. But like I said, I think the things have changed in the last 8-10 years. And you see that when you are in conversations and all. I attend a lot of events, so this time, for example, OMR is another big digital event that happens in Germany. It's called Online Marketing Blocks. Big event. It's one of the biggest in Europe. Some 70,000 people come there. Yes. And each of them pay 500 euros, so it's not free event to attend. 500 euros is not a small amount, right? And there, India, they had this pavilion on digital study or something, and India was ranked number 1 in that study, and then they had big conference, big press on that, and all, right? So these are small, and Zoho participates in a big way there. We did a lot of advertisement in Hamburg. It happened in Hamburg. So you could see that these are small things that over the period of time changes the perception, right? And it's a long game, I would say. You had an extended question for Germany.
actually dependent on Chinese market for manufacturing.
There is a lot of Chinese goods.
Go to China or China.
No, I think there is a lot of cross-pollination there, but at the same time, a lot of manufacturing were outsourced to China back then, and China. This I got to know from Hanover Messe. It's one of the big manufacturing event there, right? Germany is now talking about automation 4.0, right? So Industry 4.0, right? And China has been doing it for a while now. I'm not sure.
Just add to that, we have this Indo-German chamber.
Yes. Yeah.
They facilitate a lot of things. We are members of there. They facilitate quite a lot of companies working with them. We work with a lot of German companies. They have a lot of manufacturing, especially on back to back. Because investment is also happening from in our domain. We will able to think of we have to start.
One last question.
I'm Partha on the managing the funds business, mutual funds. But what I have seen is that those investors who selected the fund which is investing in the European market or the global fund, excluding US actually. Return on investment, not at all good, not 6 months or 1 year, even in the last 5 years also. From the area. So, in fact, we have Indians who are working there are investing here, but the return on investment in that market, very actually, what is because of the economic growth, the stagnation, or because
I think
the earnings is the major thing. So, many big companies are there. So, return on investment has been very poor.
yeah, no, that's I think that's the case across Europe. That's
Zoho books has nothing to do with it.
Recently, actually, I've been living in
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's you're right. So there's some of the people that I speak to, I talk to them about our senses in the markets that 12-13% is norm, right? So there you can't even think about 1%, 1.5%, 2%, right? I think it's just that market is also product of what is the future opportunity, right? So the opportunity over there, it's quite stable. So stability is the assurance, right? Compared to volatility, which is there in emerging markets. So there, if your savings account is not giving you, obviously there's no interest on your savings account. So the market could give you maybe 2 or 3% return. Like a fixed deposit in Germany would give you 3%. Right? 3% you get here for savings. So I think it's just a factor of stability versus the volatility.
Earlier it was correct. Now the inflation is increasing everywhere.
Yes. Yes.
Earlier I know these rates were existent. The real rate, as you said, is 0% interest in savings bank. The market return is 2%. So the real return is 2%.
Correct.
But now the inflation is itself increasing.
Yes.
So what the locals were.
So people are suffering. People are, so this is one reality here, right? So this Euro Cup that happened, that opened up a big reality of Germany to the world. So we think about Germany meaning the Deutsche Bahn, which is like Indian Railways of Germany, right? So we think about Germany, we think about punctuality. Now Deutsche Bahn, I've been traveling now 6-7 years now, never ever got on time. Right? So Germans have this big meme and this thing about German trains that that never comes on time. But it was never, the news was never out of Germany. Euro Cup brought that news to the world, right? Because people missed football matches because trains were running late. Right? And why were trains running late is because people were on strike. Most of these unions are on strike all the time because you have 8-10% inflation. Your salary, your regular salary hikes in Europe is like 2%, 3%.
That was my concern.
Yeah. So people are suffering, and that's why you would see a lot of unrest around, right? So even though the inflation is still better than what it was right after the Ukraine war, but you still, for a local person, you go to the grocery. If your butter is now €2, it has gone to €4. It's not going to come down to €3. It will continue with the €4 thing, right? So I don't know where they invest. I'm not sure, but
I can tell you from my experience. My colleagues came to Germany after me. They came and asked,
okay, so which bank gives higher percentages? And you have to pay the bank and keep your money. So,
I pay every month money to my bank to have an account. These are all cultural shock to people, right, who move from here to there.
the personal.
Some other way.
Now, the personal question is.
Yes, sir.
Oh, there's one. The one final one. Let's go for it.
Hi, thank you. So it was a wonderful things. We have got a lot of insights. We are providing the healthcare services here. So I just want to know how that healthcare system works in Europe, because it's a common. Sorry.
Extremely sensitive. Very, very sensitive industry.
Okay.
Like if you have HIPAA in US, right?
Yes.
So HIPAA is the thing in US. Sorry, you complete your question. Sorry.
Yeah. Yes. I heard that the service which they are providing, it will take much time over the. It is a common thought. It is that, but I just want to clarify whether to get that healthcare services, it will take more time over there.
Oh, okay. So you're talking about like if I'm sick, if
Yeah,
I'm
yes.
yes, that's very, very difficult.
Okay.
Very difficult. You, for most of the European countries, barring a few, it's a social system, right? So Germany, for example, Germany, France, Spain, these are social systems, which means that you get a certain income. A part of your income would go automatically to your health insurance. You can choose whatever insurance you want to, right? So it was a very good system. So if and then a part of your income also goes for your pension, right? So the way it would work is whatever you are paying today, you're paying for the future generation, right? So that's how the system works there. It was a very good system, but I would say since 2014-15, when a lot of refugees started coming to Europe, especially after the Syrian war, the immigrant population in these major European markets, it increased multifold, right? And because the way these countries' social systems are structured, you need to provide healthcare to everybody. That's like the fundamental right for them. But people who are coming in, they are also not earning. So the system is not getting money. So system is not getting money, but at the same time, system is stressed because earlier they were to service 100 people, now they have to service 500 people, right? Now, the system has also not improved to serve 500 people, which means you are now long in the queue to get appointments. Yes. So your healthcare system, yes, it is one of the really advanced systems, but then as a regular you and I, to get that, it's painful. Okay. And I'm saying that from my own personal experience.
So that's the pain point.
As soon as the ESA fee of the bill have. So if you are earning about 21,000, you don't have to pay the ESA. I have to go take a
But here you can go to any doctor. You can go to any doctor.
There you can't go.
even my own money.
No.
So that's the actual pain point over there, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought you were talking about healthcare
Yeah.
system.
And another thing, we are already using the Zoho in our office.
Okay.
All the Zoho suite we are using.
Okay.
So why not if we because we are using the Zoho for startups.
Okay.
Yeah. So we got that 1 lakh credit, and we are using, and we can using more than that also.
Okay.
And if we plan to set up office in European countries or any other countries, is there anything from Zoho like to if you help us in setting the office over there, then we can take the Zoho over there, like Zoho Box, it can be integrated with this here.
Okay. First of all, thank you for using Zoho. But we don't have the credit system in Europe, not everywhere. The Zoho for Startup program is quite popular in India, right? And in Middle East, in Europe, we are only starting now with some of these programs. And we don't have any service where we are helping companies to set up. I don't think we have that in India also. Yeah, so you're on your own.
Zoho has products. They are free to be used by small companies and you don't pay as you start using it. Because I started using Zoho also. I use a lot of Zoho products. Every product I started using it free. Only after reaches a certain point where Zoho and myself we are confident that this is learning journey can be
Yeah.
I should be able to make you.
So we have a freemium version of almost all our products, and people can use that, right? So for example, if you are a CRM customer or something, you will have certain number of users for free, right? But when you grow beyond that user size, you have to pay the license fee.
So the personal question: what are your sources of learning, Suvish?
Because I'm from the industry, I need to keep myself updated. So I follow conversations online mostly, like Twitter or just to keep myself updated. But then Twitter, now I have reduced quite a lot because this is too much of junk. But honestly, in the last 4-5 years, my source of learning has been conversations with our customers, and it has been very, very insightful. It's not just about learning about the product, but it's also the industry and then the local nuances. So I generally don't shy away from traveling to these anywhere where you could just talk to 2-3 people, right? So that's been quite a.
Okay. Any book or podcast or anything that has appealed to you in the last couple of years?
Not really. I mean, I'm not a reader.
Because I love reading, but but conversations, absolutely.
Yes.
And these are some points that are written down. I'm sure I saw a lot of you taking notes. Focus on the trust factor, sell the present the plan, especially to risk-averse German market and thereabouts. Look for local partners, look for markets open to experimentation. Make the other person or the prospect comfortable. So some learning from him. Work on local success stories. If not, we will need to build. Focus on the perception challenge. Understand the culture per country that you're looking at going in. Aim for the low-hanging fruit or the early adopters. Have loads of patience and play the long game. So thank you very much for all these points, Suvish. Put your hands together. Suvish, thank you once again for immediately jumping on. You can connect with him on LinkedIn. He's quite active. So thank you, Suvish.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone.